Hello all, as you start to join us, everybody getting admitted from the waiting room. Hope you all are doing well and enjoying your holiday season. And thank you for joining us today for this really exciting presentation on FormIt. I don't know about you guys, but I'm super excited for the presentations that we have in store. Today, we have Heather Lech from Autodesk. Super excited to see some of the things that she has in terms of the roadmap for FormIt, and not only what's happening today, but also what we can expect in some coming months. We also have Jason Hudson, a practitioner, who's actually going to be showing us, actual practical examples within FormIt, kind of going between Revit and FormIt. So super excited. Definitely allow them to give themselves further introductions as they begin. To start, of course, as you can see, I have the mural up. I am sure that Allison, of course, right there behind me, sharing in the chat the mural link. So make sure that you come in there, the questions that you have, make sure that you post them up there. I encourage you, if you can see on my screen, to take one of these boxes here. Just select the box that pertains to you. You can see each one kind of has an icon. I'm BIMIT. So I would take this top one with the computer in it. You can see that all of them are kind of highlighted up in the top left here with the for reference only in yellow there. All right, so architecture, civil, MEP. If there is one that you do not see that you are aligned to, please let us know. We want to make sure everybody is captured in there. So I say, please specify if you are other, right? But essentially down below, you're just going to click on that box, left click on that box, that is, then right click and duplicate it. I'm going to go ahead and take this over to the location area. I am calling from Washington, D.C. My name is Dana. Actually, that's a lie. I'm calling from Virginia. I'm a computational leader with Smith Group. And each month we give away a gift card, or I should say CAD Microsystems, our sponsor, gives away a $25 gift card to Amazon. So please, as I have done, make sure you're putting in your location at the very least, because we have a winner this time, Christopher Alexander. If you have not gotten your gift card, I think you have. Allison has already contacted you. So congratulations. Make sure that you're participating. We also on the left have here, tell us how you're feeling, right? You're concerned, maybe you're hungry or hangry, right? I am here to networker, right? So I'm gonna once again right click and duplicate my box here, pull this over, and just here to network. I'm just gonna leave it as it is, right? So please engage with Mural. We'd love to see you guys up there. We also have anything that you might want to share in terms of future topic ideas. 2022 is coming up. What would you like to see? What can we present to you to give you more information on in terms of the BIM world? We also have some boxes related to info that you'd like to share. Maybe it's about FormIt. Maybe it's not about FormIt. Maybe it's somewhat related. Maybe it's not. We also have any questions for the presenters that you might have. And additionally, at the bottom, some polls. Over here on the right, recently started a tip/tool of the month that Dan is going to be talking about. So I will pass it over to Dan. Dan, would you like to share your screen, or should I just man it here?
No, I think I could share my screen. Do the ultimate trust fall and share my screen with everything open. So quick tip I wanted to run by everyone. We do this a lot in my firm simply because sometimes our teams, they forget to set up the AutoPublish, and next thing you know, you're out there working on BIM 360 and you have no cloud-based backup of any of your work except for like months ago, and then something goes wrong and then there's nothing we can do. So one of the things we do while we're setting up is we actually create the AutoPublish schedule for our teams before they push their models to the cloud. It took us a little testing to figure this out, but now our BIM team just does this for our project teams. I'm going to walk you through the steps here, and we'll skip over the boring parts. We're waiting on the Autodesk server. So basically, it starts by creating basically a new blank Revit file. And then once I create that Revit file, all I have to do is save it as like a placeholder file to like my desktop or just some temporary location. And then when my teams are ready, all I have to do is initiate collaboration and push it up to the cloud. So I just go to my Collaborate tab, hit the Collaborate, and say I want to do this on the cloud. I'm just going to dump this on my desktop for now. And this should all be pretty much old hat at this point. We're going to the cloud. We're just going to drop it in. And then I go to my project. So I've got this project in the background set up for this. Conveniently named Delete Me, just in case I forget and leave it up there. But I've already done this on the architectural side. But then you would want to rinse and repeat this based on your BIM execution plan for any of the
Wait, I got to stop you. Wouldn't it be archive me?
You could, because you can't actually delete anything.
Okay. Sorry for the aside. I just wanted to make sure that you didn't know something I didn't.
Nope. You actually cannot delete anything for BIM 360. That's true. Just so you know, that's the world we live in. Nothing is ever actually deleted. But anyway, tinfoil hats aside, basically all I have to do now is go to my account and go to my project, conveniently named Delete Me. And then I just go to the project team folder I want to push this to. So I'm going to do this for my electrical team. And I'll call this, placeholder 2022. Push this to the cloud. And then this is done. So the next step, once the initiation is completed, and now you only have to wait for 2 checks instead of 3, which I think is, that's progress, baby. We'll jump over to BIM 360. And then when I go to my design collaboration module, it's going to say, hey, there's a new Revit file there. Do you want me to set up a team? And that's super convenient. Thanks, BIM 360. So there should be a pop-up. Maybe I need to go to, it usually pops up as soon as you open this, but I might have to go to project admin and then go to design collaboration. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and add my team. And since the team already exists, we're going to push it to the electrical team. And since there's a Revit file there, all I have to do is schedule my publish. And once this is set, you're done. Go back to your docs and delete your placeholder file. Now your schedule is set up for all of your consultants, for all your team members, everything the way you need it. And as a BIM manager, you can sleep nicely at night knowing that your models are being published automatically at least once a week. So just thought I'd share that with everyone. That's something we do to help support our teams. And I've been sharing that with every BIM manager that will listen to me. And I just figured you guys might really like that.
That is awesome and super useful, right? Because publishing is essentially like syncing across the team. Something that's very, very crucial, of course. So thank you so much, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
So I will pass it over to Jason, a colleague of Dan. Jason, thank you so much for joining us today. I am stoked to see what you have in store.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Like you said, I work with Dan a lot, more on the architect side of things. I do regular architecture day to day and just tune into the BIM team every once in a while to make sure that our BIM processes are coordinated well with our actual architectural practices. So today I'm just going to be going over what's essentially a really simple FormIt workflow. It's just importing and exporting geometry like as a family, and being able to use that geometry and all the resources that you already have in Revit kind of seamlessly as sort of a round trip. And I say that this is a persuasive tool because if your firms are anything like ours, we have a lot of people that are huge fans of SketchUp for their conceptual design flows, and there's a little bit of hesitancy to adopt FormIt, even though some of the modeling tools are pretty similar and intuitive in the same way. And FormIt gives a lot better integration with Revit. So this being a simple workflow that someone could potentially see the value of is something that I would present if I was trying to show someone like, hey, you should consider FormIt, because it's something that hopefully they can just see the value in, and in this one simple workflow that maybe translates them into digging into FormIt a little deeper. So this model that we're looking at in the background is it's gone all the way through like 100% DD at this point. We're starting early CD phase, I would say, which means that there's a lot of development that's been done in this model. There's a lot of geometry. We've been doing material work in Enscape for it. That's been our main modeling means of rendering. In this case, is we're just using the Enscape plugin directly in Revit to kind of make a seamless workflow there. So we have a lot of information there and a lot of model elements. It's a fairly big file. So for someone that is comfortable using SketchUp, this isn't really a model that's going to translate very well back into SketchUp, because you're going to potentially run into some model size issues trying to translate it. Like, I know our machines don't really do well transferring a model of this size and pulling it into a SketchUp format so someone can work on it. Additionally, this might be a model that we are continuing to develop in like actual architectural drawings, and some of the changes that we make in the architectural drawings we would want to show up in some of the documentation we're showing the client. But in this particular case, we wanted to look at some of these balconies on the front of the building and come up with some different design options for that particular piece of the design. And we did it in FormIt because it allowed us to just do some modeling in FormIt, pull it into our main model, and do the rendering with our existing Revit model very, very seamlessly. So step by step, the way that I'll typically do this is, even though the translation from FormIt and to Revit and back and forth is a little bit better than SketchUp, you still don't necessarily want to pull the entire model into FormIt. So I'll pull a chunk of the model out of Revit. I'll crop it with the section box. I'll cut out interior geometry that doesn't really matter. I'm just pulling in enough geometry to give me context to model in FormIt, because I'm not relying on FormIt for any visualization. I just am relying on it for the geometry that I'm going to pull back into Revit. So you can export a specific view. So you'll just export the one view that you've cut down as an SAT file and import that into FormIt. The import into FormIt will come into the FormIt software in the proper orientation to the origin of FormIt, which corresponds to the project base point in Revit, which is going to be important going back and forth, because when we pull this back into Revit, it's just going to bring itself into the proper location in the model, so we don't have to worry about lining anything up after the fact. Once you have that context, you can model whatever you want to in FormIt. You can model something that looks like Neapolitan ice cream, like I've done here. You have the same kind of flexible environment that you have in SketchUp: push, pull, click a line and move it, draw a line, cut it out of the model, whatever you want to do. A much more flexible environment than in Revit. I know if anyone has ever tried to model wooden slats on a porch like this, I've tried to do this multiple times, and for some reason it's just difficult for me to do in Revit, and it's an absolute breeze in FormIt. So this is definitely a geometric exercise I would much rather be doing in FormIt. When I'm in FormIt and messing with materials, I'm not really worrying about any of the underlying image assets or textures or anything like that in FormIt itself, I'll just put in a placeholder material in FormIt and color code it so I can kind of see what's what, because when I get back into Revit, that's the model where I have all of my resources that I have been working on in Enscape. And I want to use those resources instead of duplicating them and trying to get them to look right in FormIt. So I'll just put in a placeholder and leverage that later when I get back into Revit. Grouping helps a lot. I really like FormIt's ability to group stuff and make things appear logically. I feel like I missed a slide here. Yeah. The thing to know about the groups is that FormIt uses groups to organize what the family is going to be in Revit. So here, this porch, I've grouped it as what I want my family that comes into Revit to be, and then I've set the category up in the groups tree in FormIt. So you get what, seven or eight options here. I typically do generic models for something like this. Most of them seem to work pretty well. The mass one, I've had some issues with it wanting to split up the things that come in from FormIt into 17, 18, 20 masses. So I tend to shy away from that one, but I've had good success with generic models. Export, the first thing you want to do is export a FormIt file that contains only the geometry that you want in the family that's going to make its way into Revit. So you simply export from FormIt to another FormIt file. That file is going to look like this. And then you pull it back into Revit from the add-ins tab. There's a FormIt add-in, import FormIt to Revit. Like we said before, it's going to come in the proper relationship to that project base point. And then we have to do some material editing. So I've got some material tags you can see right here. You can see FormIt, or the translation from FormIt to Revit has been done so that the FormIt materials have this automatic prefix of FormIt in front of them. So I just called this placeholder 1 when I was in FormIt, and now it's called FormIt placeholder 1. And this is what it looks like. I didn't do any material work in FormIt, so it's just a pink box. But that material exists as a material in the Revit material browser. So if I want kind of a quick and easy way to just get an existing texture or material that I've been using somewhere else in the model into that material, I can simply open up the asset browser and swap the asset out with that placeholder material that came in from FormIt. So here I have this green siding, and pardon my terrible management of material asset naming, taking generic 63 and applying it to this placeholder from FormIt, so that when I get back into Enscape, I can take that material that I already have and apply it to the porch. And that's it in a nutshell. It's just a very, very simple import export that is a case that, SketchUp might not be the best solution, but I think it makes FormIt makes a pretty good case for itself in this particular scenario. So if you also have users who are reluctant to jump into FormIt, maybe this could be a good workflow to explore for you as well.
I'm thinking of all kinds of things that you could do. Sorry, can you hear me okay? I'm thinking of all kinds of things that you could do in terms of Dynamo with the materials, in terms of once you bring them in, right? So if you know that, the placeholder 1 is going to be a different asset, maybe you can make some translations, because goodness, I hate being in that material browser. Takes forever to open, right? All kinds of madness going in there. Have you played at all with Dynamo and FormIt?
I have gotten into it a little bit. I do want to experiment with it a little bit more, because I think, when I'm in Dynamo in Revit, I tend to be a little bit frustrated because there's so many different types of things you can be interacting with in Revit. You could be trying to manipulate a schedule. You could be trying to manipulate a line directly, manipulate a family, whatever. When you get into Dynamo, it's a little simpler. You're doing things with geometry in Dynamo. And to me, that coming from Grasshopper, that environment makes a lot more sense to me. So that's something that I'm definitely interested in getting into a little bit more.
Now, that being said, especially, having the leverage of Grasshopper and maybe going into Dynamo, were you a SketchUp user? And sorry if you mentioned that. I know that you mentioned, obviously a lot of people like to use SketchUp, but I don't know that you mentioned whether you were a SketchUp user.
Yeah, I don't personally use it a whole lot. I definitely see the value in it and why some people would want to use it. I tend to get really into the weeds when I'm designing things, and so SketchUp doesn't really gel with me if you're just making kind of massing shapes for the most part. But I definitely see the value of getting into a piece of software that you can essentially sketch in, right? Like it's very easy to go from thought to 3D model, and I think that's why people like it. So I'm hesitant to take that away from people and say like, oh no, you can't. You have to do this in Revit or something that's more complicated. So I see the value of something being intuitive.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense if you're pushing something to Revit after the fact, regardless, whether, because of documentation, because goodness, I mean, if you're doing like SketchUp documentation, I think, what is it, like SketchUp layout or something like that, they actually do have the capability to do documentation in SketchUp. It's highly unlikely, right? You're going to be using something else. So I think your translation of going between the programs is so important, right? Where we really don't have, not, just in terms of materials and setting materials to those objects and the unique objects, but also cutting those objects. You really do have to know the magic of working with a SketchUp element, bringing it into a family, doing all of these things to make it just be able to cut. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an important point that I didn't really get in here is these porches, I think I actually still have in the actual design just the FormIt objects in there, because I can dimension to them and tag them, and they show up when you cut them in Revit just as they would regular geometry. The import seems to work pretty well, and you can integrate what's coming in from FormIt with your actual architectural documentation. It's not just a piece of geometry that sits there that you can't touch or use.
Isn't that going to be based on Jason, isn't that going to be based on the category that you bring it in as?
It will to some degree. Generic models are just pretty flexible for the most part, so you can dimension to them. I think masses might be a little different off the top of my head. I can't really say. I do know that when you're importing geometry into families from different pieces of software, it can be a little bit hit or miss as far as whether it even recognizes it's an object that can be cut. And so FormIt tends to take some of the guesswork and trial and error out of trying to get geometry in from wherever you're trying to get it in from.
So we do have a few questions. And once again, I recommend all of you guys to participate in the mural. I understand if you can't, maybe you're on your phone or what have you. I will share the link as well. Maybe Allison's already ahead of me there. When it comes to bringing in a family from Revit or to Revit from FormIt, is it then able to be made parametric?
No, as far as I know. So
but you could can make the family in Revit and then bring it into FormIt, right?
Yes, but I don't know if it's parametric when it gets into FormIt. I think that the parametric part of this workflow would be using Dynamo, like you mentioned, in FormIt, and then just pulling the FormIt geometry into Revit. You can get into the family as if it were a family and edit it. You can do some basic manipulations in it, like deleting and applying materials if you really want to. But as far as actually making parameters work in the family, that requires a little extra work. But it would be at least a starting point for creating that family, because you would have the geometric references in the family.
So and maybe Heather could answer it better, but feel free if you know the answer. So if you bring a family in from Revit to FormIt, does it lose the parametric capabilities? Like, are all the parameters gone?
So if you bring a family, if you have a Revit family, let's say the Revit family has like 3 types built into it. In FormIt, those 3 types will be available to you. So you could place each one of those types. Like, let's say you had a table with 3 different sizes in it. You're going to see it in the content library inside of FormIt as like 3 different pieces
Unique
of content.
Families, or
right. Yeah. So in that sense, you have some ability in some way, the parameters are available, but they're not like attributes that you can select and edit inside of FormIt.
But you could, take it back into Revit, edit them. The translation is there.
The translation's saving, yeah. You're not going to lose if you then take that family from that Revit family came into FormIt and then you take it from FormIt back into Revit. It should still have all of its parameters recognized back in the Revit model in the family environment.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Also, is there any linking ability within FormIt? And I'm guessing, Christopher, let me know if this isn't what you're implying. And thank you for using Mural as always. In FormIt, can I link in the same types of files that I can link in Revit? PDFs, CAD, images.
I can answer that if you want. So you can import all of those file types that you can, most everything that you can in Revit, you can import all of those into FormIt. You can't link things into FormIt. So it won't be a live link inside of FormIt, but FormIt accepts like all kinds of file types like DWG, SAT, OBJ, SketchUp. You can directly import SketchUp models. I would have to look at the whole list, but it's pretty extensive in what the types of files you can import. FBX is another one. So all of those can definitely be imported. Like Jason used an SAT. You can use lots of other file types as well, but it's not a live link. Though I will show the other way, going FormIt into Revit. Okay. I will show you in a little bit some exciting new developments.
and when you link in the FormIt to Revit, do those imports come with it? Because I wouldn't want them to.
That's a good question. You have to try it out. I think that they do not. I think that just the sort of native FormIt geometry comes over. I mean, I know like your image file, like your satellite image file doesn't come over, or your 3D terrain that you might have had in FormIt does not come over. So I think the answer to that is no. But I want to try it out to be 100% sure.
And so when you're bringing in the Revit file, it's not necessarily linking. It's like you're saving it as a FormIt file. Let us know if you're going to do this within your process.
I'm going to show you, based on what Jason showed, I'm going to show you some little twists and turns that we've been working on. So, because I think, so Jason, are you in 2020? Were you doing Revit? Was that Revit 2020?
Yeah, that was a 2020 project.
Yeah, so I'm going to blow your mind now and talk about what we changed for 2021, because we changed a whole bunch of stuff. That wasn't what I was originally going to talk about, but I can talk about both. So I was just, while you were talking, I was launching Revit to make sure my Revit's correct and working, and I can show you the workflow that's newer. So I'm happy to do that in a minute.
Fantastic. Well, before you jump over into your side, which I'm super excited to see, I'm going to share my screen again. And once again, encourage you all to participate in our mural. The link is in the chat. Let us know if you just joined. I'm sure Allison, as people join, will be super wonderful about making sure you guys all get that link. So you can see over here on the left, if you follow Dana DeFilippi, you can see here that you can take these boxes and you can right click on them and duplicate them. Move them around. Maybe I have a question for the presenter, or maybe I say, no, my firm does not use FormIt, and I'm just going to throw my name in there, right? So please answer some polls. Let us know your location over in the top right. Anybody who shares their location will get a $25 gift card as we randomly pick a draw. So make sure that you're part of that bucket. You could, just like Christopher Alexander, get a $25 gift card to Amazon. And it's the holidays. Everybody could use a $25 gift card, right? Also, over on the left, we have more information about our group. If you're new to the BIMxt group, you can see that we actually have a LinkedIn page. This, as well as all of our previous recordings, are linked up on there, so you can get to all of the information, any, accompanying information, links, info to share, resources, etc. Create a dialogue up there. Maybe you have a question after the fact, right? Now, all of these things within Mural, you can actually double click on. Well, I shouldn't say all. Most of the things in Mural you can double click on, and it will actually take you to the link. So maybe you want to start to follow Jason and Heather on LinkedIn. You can actually double click on their LinkedIn icon and follow them. Maybe you want to see what they're going to post about FormIt or whatever they are doing within the world of BIM. We also have all of our advisors to the BIMxt group. If you want to connect with me or any of them, including Dan, who gave us the tip today. So also my YouTube channel on Dynamo BIM, right? All kinds of things, including Dynamo. There's a link there, so please follow and subscribe. Would love that. But please, if nothing else, let us know where you're calling from. We would also love it, rather than posting in the chat, if you could post your questions here. Could be about anything, including future topics. What do you want to see next year? All right, without further ado, Heather, I'm super excited. I feel like we need a drum roll. I can't really do one that well.
Oh, excellent. Okay. I'm going to share, let me share my screen. Oops. And share my screen too. And then, so I was going to show you one thing, but before I get to that, I'm going to show you something else. And then I saw one question came in from Nick in the chat about our components that are masked in FormIt tracked whenever they're brought into Revit. So like, can you update the porch geometry? So I will say, so it's what it's doing now is an import workflow. So it's not like overwriting the existing geometry with a new form or new edit that you made in FormIt. But what you could bring in the new geometry and then either put them in different design options or use visibility graphics to turn on and off the different options there. And that kind of ties into also what I'll be talking about with a linking workflow coming up as well. Yeah, so with that, I wanted to show you. So first, before I had this PowerPoint presentation ready to go, but before I do that, I wanted to show you on the FormIt blog. There's this section called integrations, and there's a section called FormIt and Revit, and I have it open here. And actually, I'm going to put the link in the chat as well. So this is, I'm going to go over this like now in a kind of a quick form, but this is going to give you a bunch of new information about some changes to the FormIt Revit workflow in the newest version, and sort of how you, it's talking about getting started. And at the bottom, it's going to talk about what's different from the old workflow. So like transitioning from the older FormIt converter add-in, like what's old, what's new. So in case you miss what I'm going to do here. So while Jason was talking, I decided I would open Revit and show you. So there are a few differences now in what in the workflow Jason showed. This will probably be helpful for him as well. And I'll show you, hopefully you think it's a better way to do things. We'll see. You can still do a lot of what you just showed. So this is, what is this, 2021, I think, right? Like, oh, so I'm in a development version, but this is from last April's release. What I'm going to show you here, there's nothing new that I'm showing you. This is all available in the 2020. I'm blanking on that. Like it's Revit 2022. It came out in 2021, I believe. Yeah, I think that's correct. So now what you can do, so what Jason did is he selected some geometry and he exported it as an SAT file. So what you can do now instead is within a 3D view in your Revit model, on the Massing and Site tab, there's a button called 3D Sketch. And what that does is it's going to launch FormIt. And you can choose to launch FormIt with all of the visible objects in your Revit view, or you could have selected specific, like I could have just selected one of the buildings from my Revit model. Or like Jason showed, where he did a section box and he exported to SAT just that section box. If I was in a 3D view and I had a section box on here, I could click this 3D sketch button and say launch all visible, and it's only going to take what's within that section box. So I'm going to, so I would click launch FormIt with all visible objects. So I just did that. So that's why I'm going to cancel that right now. And then what that did is it launches FormIt Windows Desktop. So you would have to have FormIt Windows on your installed on your same machine as you have Revit installed on. And so, so FormIt Pro, that's what this is. This comes, if you have an AEC collection subscription, you're going to get it for free. And if you have an enterprise business agreement, you're going to get it as part of your tokens. So you probably already have FormIt Windows right now. So what that did is it brought all of the Revit geometry into FormIt, and it actually put it on its own layer. So it's all a group. I have this layer set to lock. That's why it won't let me select it. It comes in as one grouped element on a layer called Revit Context. That could be changed. There's nothing really like locked down with that, but that's just so that it's organizing your context data nicely. And then what I can do is, oops, I just zoomed way in. I'm going to do just a simple like little building off to the side here, but maybe this is louvers that you're looking at. Let's see, maybe I want a building. Maybe I want to explore some louvers on the face of this. I could do that as well. And what I'm going to do now is click this Send to Revit button. And that's going to send all the geometry in the FormIt model that's not on the Revit context layer. So if I click Send to Revit, all visible, yes, all visible. And then I'm going to go back to, oh no, I'm in a development version. Okay, so that geometry would have come directly in here, okay? I'm in a weird development version, so it just like died on me. But so what that would do is that FormIt geometry now comes into Revit directly with that button. The materials come across as well, like Jason was showing. And that element, what I could have done to get closer to Jason's workflow is in Revit, before I click the Send to Revit button, I go back into Revit. I could go into an in-place mass. So, and pick a family type like generic model or massing. So let's go to, like, I could go in here and say generic model. So now I'm in the in-place mass mode here. And what I could do is then go into FormIt and then click Send to Revit. And then that's going to bring the geometry into a generic model family inside of Revit. And then I could apply like by face tools, or I could tag it as a generic model. And I still get all the materials as well. So unfortunately, as live demos do, I can't show you exactly what that's doing. But so if you're the type of person you're like one user and you're going back and forth between FormIt and Revit on your one machine, you can keep, Cesar says he can demo it. Well, let's Cesar, let me go further with this, and we'll talk about some new things. And then if we have time, we can go back and do it. So what I was going to say is, so if you're one user on one machine and you're going back and forth and you're between sort of conceptual design in FormIt and then more detailed design in Revit, this is the workflow for you. Now, if you are passing off your conceptual design to some colleague in your office, you can now go to the Insert tab and click Import CAD, and you can now browse to a .axm file. Trust me on that. In your builds, you will see .axm here. So now you can import a FormIt model just the same way that you could import any other like DWG or any other file type. So that would be the other workflow, like where Jason was, he isolated a certain part of the model. Like you could save that piece off as a separate FormIt model, and you could directly go to import CAD here, search for that FormIt model and bring it right in here. So those are two newer workflows in the latest version. Hopefully it's a better workflow for you. Now, what that does mean is that some of the category definitions are different. So if you're going from FormIt into Revit in this version that I'm showing you, you will need to, let's say you want it to come in as generic model, or you want it to come in as a furniture family, you're going to want to open you could go into a new furniture family, and then you could do import CAD from inside of there and bring the FormIt model into there as a furniture family, then load it into your project. And that's going to get you the category designation you want. So that's a bit of a change too. So again, this document here that I put a link in, that's going to give you a lot more information about sort of what's changed in this format. Other questions about that before I also sort of jump into some of the new things?
We have one question. Is there a potential that FormIt might be built directly into Revit in the future? Something where it could be used kind of like a model in place rather than a separated.
We thought about, so when we designed this workflow where you use this sort of one button to jump out to FormIt and model and jump back into Revit, we thought about should we jump between software, or should we build FormIt inside of Revit? The thing with building something inside of Revit is that it then uses the processor inside of Revit, and that means it's going to be much slower. And so one of the key parts about conceptual design,
or you just need a faster machine.
Yeah, true. But we're always hitting the limits of our fastest machine out there. So it's, even with the fastest machine, processing inside of Revit is gonna slow down your conceptual design process, right? And you want that to be fast and snappy and really reactive. So we chose to not build it into Revit right now, and to do this sort of environment where you jump.
I see it. I mean, being a BIM manager, not necessarily someone who's in production or managing my own models even. I see it being cleaner outside of Revit. As fun as it would be to have a tab and being able to have those tools within Revit natively, I see it being a lot cleaner, as the design process is somewhat kind of separate, right? Mm-hmm. Go and play, here's your sandbox, and then when you're ready, bring it in, right? That's kind of how I see it. Dan, you have some to add.
I'm going to offer my hot take here, and this is something Jason and I talk about a lot, is we should stop doing things in Revit that Revit doesn't do well. Mm-hmm. Just stop it.
We don't need an easy button, right? Like a one button to fix all things, right? We at Smith Group are super lucky to have tons of add-ins, CTC, ID, all the things. And if we have a button that can do something, I'm not going to create a Dynamo script to do it, right? We need to find kind of the best application for the workflow at hand. And it's not always Dynamo, it's not always Revit, it's not always Rhino, right? I mean, I guess also the question that I asked before to Jason about whether he was a SketchUp user is, I know there is a lot of frustration for people who are Grasshopper users and go to Dino. I am not I was never a Rhino user. I've always used only Revit for SketchUp, CAD, anything. So I'm like a gold star Revit user, I guess you could say. So I don't experience that frustration, but I understand that Dynamo isn't as robust for geometry. I don't typically use Dynamo for geometry, so that's not something that I necessarily need to worry about, but I know there are a lot of frustrations in that. So I wonder, especially now with all of the, you know, robust additions that both of you guys have alluded to, whether that frustration would still be as significant for someone who's in SketchUp, that's been using SketchUp forever, that, you know, is used to all of the commands and all of those things that goes to FormIt. Like, with the, obviously it's not going to be the same. We know that, right? That you're going to be using it, you know, the wheel's going to do different things. It's going to be different. Mm-hmm. But can we accomplish the same tasks in the same efficient way? And I would love to see, please, info to share. Post it on Mural. I'd love to get your input for those of you guys who use FormIt in the audience. So
yeah,
continue,
then,
Heather.
Yeah, so what I might do in the meantime is, so I had this was this what I was going to show? I'm just going to skip over this and assume everyone kind of has the basics of FormIt. So what I was going to do was show you sort of like a few things that are new that came out either this fall in the Revit 2022.1 release, or their new plugins to talk about as well. So what I might do, the ones I was going to talk about are these ones that are starred here. Additional to that, so FormIt's now available in 15 languages, and we're super excited about that because it means it just has a better, much larger global audience available to it. And it also means that workflow that I just showed you from Revit with the 3D sketch button to FormIt means that whatever language your Revit is in, FormIt will launch in that same language. But the other cool thing is that levels now transfer from Revit to FormIt. There have been some Dynamo updates as well, including more object level nodes that allow you to assign attributes or a FormIt layer directly inside of Dynamo to a FormIt object. We also have video export now. We updated some things to the animations and scenes, and we have video export. And then there are a couple new plugins that came out in November. So what I think I'm going to do with limited time is talk about the FormIt Revit stuff mostly. And then I'll touch on the plugins. And then at the end, I wanted to show you some new things that are in progress around the FormIt Revit workflow, basically around linking. So you guys can, I'll check in with you. You can cut me off when we're ready, when we have to go. So this is available to you now with Revit 2022.1 and FormIt 2022.1. So the levels are now transferring along with that 3D sketch workflow that I just showed you. The levels in Revit's 3D view will now show up in FormIt's levels palette. So this is a video showing that actually with the same model that I just had open. So here in the Revit 3D view, you'll see we have some layers that are levels that are visible here. So now when you click on that 3D sketch button from the massing and site tab and you launch FormIt, in the levels palette of FormIt, you now have all of the Revit levels just given right there with the elevations all set up. So that means that when I start to make maybe I want to make an addition here, I make some edits in my FormIt model, I can just select that form and immediately apply those Revit levels. So I know exactly the heights and things. So when it comes back into Revit, I know it's all going to match up correctly. So that's one of the highlights that's available to you guys now. I'm going to skip over the Dynamo one. Sorry, Dana. I know you're your Dynamo fan. And then I will show you just for a second. So Lumion recently released their most recent release 12 in early November. And with that came a FormIt Live Sync plugin. So we're super excited about this.
Ooh.
No Enscape one yet. I know.
Okay.
Jason was
so I did post in the, so there was a question about that in the mural. And so I posted you can double click on my red text and it will actually take you to the page on Enscape where you can vote it up.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
But this is awesome.
Yes.
This is awesome. Lumion.
And
Fantastic.
I know Jason had in there, he has a workflow. You can go from FormIt, bring your model into Revit, and then you can use Enscape from there. But this Lumion plugin
question
is
about
super
Twin
exciting.
Motion or any conversations with Twin Motion about integration?
Not yet, but we have. So Revit's API is ready to go and so all these companies can start building plugins for FormIt, and we're open to it and would love to connect with people. So I'm going to skip over. This was just a video showing a FormIt model inside of Lumion. I'm going to skip that. There's another great 3D context creator plugin that we at Autodesk recently partnered with MatterLab on. So we updated a bunch of the plugin documentation. So FormIt has a JavaScript API plugin capabilities. It's all open. So this is an example of a plugin that MatterLab did with all of FormIt's API. And what this does is it connects to FormIt's location dialog. So you start a location in FormIt, you pick, this is around the Tower Bridge in London, you import this into FormIt, and then on the plugins tab, you find the 3D context creator. You can change that slider to say how much context, the radius of context you want, click create, Whoa. And that will bring in, this is using OpenStreetMap's data. However, the plugin is open source, and you can go in here and you can fork it, and you can potentially connect it to a different data source if you don't want to use OpenStreetMaps or that doesn't work in the area of the world that you're located in. So that's super cool. That's free. That's
is cooler than Dynamo, I'll say.
Yes.
Wait, you mean we don't have to push and pull little white boxes for hours on end to make our site context anymore?
Exactly. So that's super awesome, and it's available to you now. It will show up in your latest FormIt build. And then if I have, just like 2 more minutes, I want to talk a little bit about the work in progress we have around the FormIt and Revit workflows. So we've had this big effort around FormIt Revit for it's been a couple years of development. I know it hasn't been that long for you guys, but it's been a while for us. So what we're working on is additional visual fidelity and then also a linking workflow. So this is an example. So a couple releases back, we made it so FormIt lines that are hidden in FormIt, like a cylinder in FormIt is actually a series of faceted edges. It's not actually a complete cylinder. So when that form would come into Revit as a pure solid geometric modeler would show all of those faceted lines, and customers really didn't want that. So we fixed some of that in that those lines now come in as hidden edges into Revit. However, we also lost some of the outside edges, some of the outline edges of those curves. So now something we're working on, it's in progress, so not quite available to you yet. We will get those silhouette edges correct, and we will start to be able to show those curved silhouette edges correctly inside of Revit. That's been a big issue around visual fidelity. And then what this is showing is the linking workflow between FormIt and Revit. So you can go to link CAD now instead of just import CAD. You can link that FormIt model in. And then when you select that FormIt model, there'll be a button called Edit in FormIt, which will then open FormIt and launch it with that linked AXM model. So now I can immediately start making edits inside of that linked FormIt model. And then I can click that send to Revit button that's up there on the ribbon. And it will, this is basically updating the link that's inside of Revit. So back in Revit, you'll see those changes immediately update. So this is sort of where we're finally getting to.
Try to do that with SketchUp.
Exactly. And all the materials come across. This will also work with that 3D sketch workflow. So right now, the 3D sketch workflow is like a kind of an import. It's sort of a one-off, but this will make it so that when you click the 3D sketch button and then you send that file from FormIt back to Revit, it will automatically create that link for you. So that's where we're heading.
Is there a 3D warehouse type location that you can get FormIt content, or do you just kind of fall back on Revit content, right? Because all Revit content you can bring.
Yeah, but you can bring Revit content. You can bring 3D warehouse directly into FormIt. FormIt has a content library. You can point that library to any folder that you have access to. That folder can even live on BIM 360 docs, but that folder can have DWGs in it, SKPs, SATs, anything, and it will all come into FormIt. So we don't really plan to create extensive content because so much in other formats is available to bring right into FormIt directly.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a few more minutes. I'm not seeing any questions. Just to wrap up a few final kind of administrative things, you will get an email. However, in the top left corner of the mural, there is a link to the survey. I'm sure Allison will go ahead and post that in our chat. She's awesome. So make sure that you fill out the survey. Let us know if you weren't able to today, or if you think of a topic that you'd like to see in 2022. I want to say almost 2023 because I've been using Revit 2022 for so long, right? It's like I'm kind of ahead of the year. It's like even harder. So definitely fill out the survey. We do take all of that into consideration. Thank you so much. Love the participation in the mural. Love to see that happening. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you for participating. That is really why we are here, is for you. And we want to make sure that we are catering to that. So let us know what you want to see, right? I can come up with topics, but that might not be what you want to see. It will just be dynamo every time, right? So make sure you let us know, either in mural or once again on that survey. You can get to the survey in email, in our chat within Zoom, or in the top left of the mural. So thank you all so much.